Hello nerds, welcome back. Today we're not going to make such pleasant sounds as last episode, we're going to make Riddim noises. We're going to be using a lot of square waves, and I've been trying out this plugin Filterverse from Polyverse. They've given it to me for free, but this is not sponsored. This is just my honest opinion about it. But we're going to be using it today a bunch because it's actually quite crazy. Let me show you what it can do, and then I will show you how to do it. So I'm just running a square wave into it, and then I make stuff like this. Even just the regular filters sound really fun. Yeah, this thing can get crazy. So let's start with a quick refresher on the standard Riddim Square 4 sound and how to just like make it with Serum. And then we'll go into some fun stuff with Filterverse. Also throughout the video, I'll be making like a bunch of one-shot samples and I'll be making like a little pack with it. It's probably going to be like 50 samples and put that on my Patreon. Again, link in the description. All right, let's go. So the basic setup for that classic Riddim sound is just a square wave. And then we can use like a negative comp filter and like move it somewhere around down here. Maybe if you want to, you could try the negative comp filter that has like a high pass and a low pass on it. Then this knob down here kind of turns into the width of that filter. Sometimes helps to control the amount of high resonant frequencies. You can kind of hear how it gets brighter if I turn this up. And then the absolute basic setup would be to put an LFO on the volume of the square wave. That looks like something like this maybe. And then another LFO on the cutoff of the filter and maybe just move it like a tiny bit, but like upwards or downwards with a saw wave. And if the resonance rings out for you a little bit too long, you could put that first LFO on the resonance here. That is basically it. You could like take it anywhere from here. Alternatively to modulating the cutoff, if I remove that again, changing the pitch, like with a pitch bend or something, will create a similar effect. So we could put that second LFO alternatively on the pitch here of our oscillator and get a similar effect. And maybe you want to add like a little bit of stereo width. The pan knob here is perfect for that. Maybe to like 55 or 45%. Gives you a little bit of width. But yeah, just by messing with the LFOs, you can quickly get to something like instead of just a quarter note, yoink, 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 you can quickly get into a schwink, schwonk type sound by changing this to half the rate. Also, the note you play like definitely matters if the key tracking is not on over here. I'm gonna move this LFO back to the cutoff over here for a sec. So I'm playing an E right now, but if I play an F or a D sharp, that's a G and a G sharp. If you turn on the key tracking, let's find a sweet spot again. If the key tracking is on, then every note is going to have that same kind of high frequency ringing on top of it. All right, next, I'm just going to take that square wave. I'll keep that volume automation with the LFO on here. I'm going to just turn it to envelope. So it's just like a little one shot. And then here we've got Filterverse, which gives you 3 filters. You can choose from this beautiful list of filters that has just like been growing over time. It started with like very basic filters, but now there's a bunch of really crazy ones in here. And like, I feel like the plugin's just been getting better and better. I really like it by now. And then you can arrange those 3 filters in whatever order you want, like in serial, parallel, or in any other funky combination over here. And you've got a couple of modulators down here, like a macro, an envelope follower, or something random, a pitch detector, an LFO, an envelope. So you can modulate things if you want to. The first section here with the red filters is all just like more basic stuff, like you can like morph between high pass, peak, band pass, band reject, low pass, and there's like some drive you can add. So that's cool. But for the Riddim sound, we're looking for comp filters or something similar. So the first thing my eye immediately went to was RoboComp, which looks like a bunch of comp filters stacked like in like different arrangements. I think that's the type slider here. So like it already sounds similar to using the negative comp filter in Serum, but it sounds a little different too. Like there's something else going on here. And then when we look into the other settings here, like symmetry, and stretch. Craziness just starts to unfold. I might bring down the resonance a little bit. I think over here might be a nice spot to then... It like kind of adds a vowel type effect to a comp filter. And a quick way here to get some stereo width, if the filter doesn't provide it, is to just grab a macro knob and just turn this all the way up. And then under each of these parameters, there'll be like this little button here to add modulation. And then like in this case on the cutoff, I'm just gonna like click this to make the modulation stereo. And then if you move your mouse, you'll see it like does this thing, like it goes up or down for left or right. And then just doing that a little bit, it immediately gave us a lot of stereo width. There's already a lot going on here. If I were to use this to then make a track, I might put like maybe a little bit of compression after this or something to just like keep it in check, especially the sub. And then just go create an audio track and set it to resampling and then record a bunch of one-shots and just play with those. By the way, I've been finding this really useful. I've set it so that whenever I create an audio track, it's automatically set to resampling as the input because I use that a lot. You can do that by just making an audio track, selecting resampling, and then if you right-click it, you can say save as default audio track. So then whenever you spawn an audio track, it'll have that set as its default input. It's a little helpful tip on the side here. But yeah, we could just go start recording, make sure the resampling records as well. The serum can kind of stay the way it is maybe for now. And just get a couple of these. Maybe in different notes. Can I increase the resonance even more without it going too crazy? Yes. Trying to find some other sweet spots. That sounds crazy, I love it. I might pick a bunch of the one-shots here and clean them up a little bit and then put them into a folder for you guys. Let's look at some other filters. There's some crazy phasers in here too, like this one called Deep Phase, where we've got like up to 8 like kind of phasery bands that we can spread out. Depending on where we do that, it might sound more or less vowel-y. Increase the resonance a little bit. I found it to sound kind of most interesting in this low spread area here. We could also make it a little more interesting by going back into the serum and adding a little bit of pitch modulation here, just so that the pitch of our square wave kind of like maybe moves down a little bit. Kind of like that, just kind of gives it this howling character. And then that'll combine with whatever motion we do in here. It's also Deep Phase, similar, but oh, it's got a drive knob. A little more intense. Also, it really matters where we put the cutoff. This actually sounds kind of cooler at higher cutoff values. Then we've got some undescribable things like the fractalizer. I think this is also a phaser-based filter that kind of like the Robocomp stacks phasers on top of each other in like some crazy way. And then the pinch knob just does some mental stuff. It's like a weird type of yoi bass. That sounds nice. Oh, that's kind of nice and bubbly. Then there's obviously some, like the standard flanger. Little less width. I wonder if I add an envelope, is this going to like require its own MIDI trigger? I might be able to do that by grouping the serum and then adding an, let's see, external instrument, and then route that to the same track we're currently on, which is 5, and then Filterverse. Does that trigger the envelope? Let's see by trying to... Yeah! Nice, so we could do some fun stuff with that too. If you don't want to move it by hand, then you could do it this way. Neat. Another cool one and a little more weirder is the strings. This is kind of more like your classic resonator with a damp control. But usually if you found a good spot with the frequency, the timbre control can be really fun. Like somewhere around there. That's kind of cool. maximum wonk. Might also sound interesting up here. Let's try that. Hehe. Another crazy looking one is this one called Coils, which has a lot of stuff going on here. The twist thing kind of almost feels like a detune. Almost turns into a reverb at high resonance. And then the twist control is mental. Especially at like these low values here. And then we've also got like these different types to check out. There's also this space filter, which kind of reminds me a little bit of the reverb filter in Serum, I guess? This one might definitely need like a little bit of brightness added to it afterwards. Alright, now that I've glazed Filterverse more than enough, I just want to show you how I would then like kind of process this just a little bit, and then let's just record like a couple more one-shots, and I will like tidy them up and label them and everything and sort them and put them into a nice folder for you all. So obviously we could combine using a comp filter in Serum with the Filterverse filters. So I'm using the negative comp here to kind of do that. We've got that pitch automation happening too. And then we've got the robo comp on top. Sounds pretty nice. I've got the envelope here doing some stuff, like slightly modulating the stretch and the cutoff. And then I'm taking out a little bit of sub here to then kind of clip this in Spec Ops. It's just a spectral effects plugin, but I'm using the companion down here to just like make things loud. If you push them too far, they kind of clip in a nice way. This just started like crunch. It's like a sweet spot there. And then just in standard Riddim tradition, adding like a little slapback type of reverb, like just a really short reverb, but with a long pre-delay. So it kind of like adds an echo to it, but just quietly. It's like a little bit in the back. And then we can obviously play around with cutoff, modulation strengths, the cutoff of the comp filter inside Serum. Oh, that one sounded cool. Meow. And if you want to go even harder, we could FM this first square with maybe a saw wave an octave up. Get even more odd harmonics in there. And just like see how wonky we can get. I'm just going to start recording these in case there's something good in there. That's a cool one. Over here I might play around with the fractalizer a little bit. You are kind of cooler at higher frequencies, right? Yeah. At this point, even though there is some sub coming from Serum, the comp filters and phasers and everything, I can leave a little bit here in, but like you might want to add your own sub afterwards under these. Oh, we can modulate you too. That's cool. That's a nice screamy one. Maybe change the frequency again over here and see what happens. Or change the shape of the LFO around. Nice, good wonks. Ooh, those are cool. Try and get a couple more really scrapey ones out of here. So there you have it, an endless supply of yoinks. I hope you found something useful in this tutorial and are having fun with comp filters in the future if you're making Riddim. And if you want the sounds from this episode as wave in a neat little sample pack, then check the link in the description. It's available on my Patreon. Have a nice rest of your day and bye-bye.